it's about believing in yourself, and it's not about proving it to them. It's just like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm just going to let you be a witness of it. Like, you don't have to completely understand it. Just emotionally and physically support me so that I could achieve what I want to achieve.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Breakup, starring Marvin Charles. So, if you're already here, please remember, like the video down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and ring notification bell. Please, 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 super important that you guys do that. We're on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Coffee Breakup website, coffeebreakup.com.
And Spotify and iTunes.
You can listen to us on the go, Spotify and iTunes. You could watch us on YouTube, obviously. With that being said, we have a
great guest.
Repeat. Yes, first one, I would say, right?
Yeah. Xothal, how are you?
Hi guys, I'm back.
Is that what we're gonna call her? Xothal? Is that?
I like it.
How do you say it?
Xothal, yeah.
Xothal. Okay, we're gonna call you Xothal.
Thalia.
For the people that don't know, it's Thalia.
There you go.
My actual name.
Thalia.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm
Welcome
happy
back.
to be back.
I
Very
know.
happy.
Honored to have you back on the show.
And I'm sure you had a lot of changes from then till now. I was looking through our old episode of previous stuff.
Same.
You also have some news for us. Let's start off with the good news. What you got ready for us right now?
So the good news that I have for you and for everybody that's watching is that I have been working on a poetry book. It's named Too Much by Xothal. And I'm here to express how happy I am that I'm able to express my art through a book. I think it's something that it's new for me. So I'm excited to share it with you guys. You guys are actually the first people that are going to be hearing about this. Yeah. You guys are special.
We are honored. You dropped it off last night. I read through it. I skimmed through it and I love it. You know, congrats. And I know personally how it's a special moment, especially your first one. I'm sure it's not going to be your last one. But no. Based on what I've read, it's not going to be your last one. So congrats to you.
Thank you.
And when should we be expecting this book?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should be expecting the book. I shot the campaign today. So today I did the videography and the pictures for the book. So within the next week or 2 weeks, I should be releasing it. I'm really aiming for before Christmas because I do want to give that present for everybody else.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, where can people find this and tell us a little bit about what went into creating this piece?
Okay, so my first step when I was creating the book was first gathering every content that I ever made, which is content now for social media, but in reality, it was just me expressing myself through my writing and my experiences. So I had to gather everything that I have ever written and see what exactly was the purpose for this book, right? Because you need to find like a center of the book. And when I found the center, it was really that I wanted it to be a light source for other people, just like writing was for myself. So essentially, when I gathered everything that I wanted to put out together, I reached out to my friend Jess, and she helped me do the whole publishing and putting the book together. And Amazon actually is the source that I went for. It's really helpful. And then now I'm going to have my own website where I'm going to be selling it.
What is it called? The website.
The website is xothal.co. So that company.
We'll put it on the description.
You hear that, Alex? It's a word.
So we're going to fight to push this out as soon as possible so people can jump on that.
Yeah, we have set deadlines. But regardless, so what inspired? I know that you have been writing for a while. So what kind of made you finally take the leap to get to print?
I think that I first started sharing my writing through Instagram. So my friend Stephanie Amaro, shout out to her. She's also coming out with her book soon. She started sharing her stuff first, and she really was the person who pushed me. I always wanted to, but I think we're all caught up sometimes in our ego and not letting other people see our weak points and just struggles and experiences. And I really had to overcome my ego of like, it doesn't matter if I have been broken, if I've been cheated on, if I've been hurt, like I'm not the only one. So I feel like I found the gift of me too. So when people read my things and they say, oh my God, me too, like that is my gift. Like I'm just like, okay, like that's all I ever wanted. So she reminded me that I'm human too, and that really the people that are going to judge are the people that are afraid of admitting that they're just like us too.
And I find out what's most craziest about that is that, you know, it's kind of because of her that you felt confident enough to say, well, I want to speak out now. You know, you were able to kind of have that little push to bring that. Because I told you before we even started recording, I'm like, you're probably one of the more creative people that I've ever met
Thank you, yeah.
personally.
Sure.
There's so much that you have, and it's not just about how you deliver it. It's how you're always like, your mind is always like,
Yeah, sometimes my
firing
mind
off
just goes at
something.
100. And I'm like, slow down.
Exactly. But it took that to finally be like, you know what, let me express this with everyone else. Like there's too much up here for me.
Well,
myself.
think
I
about it
gotta
this
share
way.
this.
You do, I did express it just within me and myself, right? So it was just between me and myself that I would still find it beautiful because there is art in privacy. So I think it was beautiful when I kept it to myself, but it became more beautiful when I shared it with people and they were able to understand what I was saying because it made me feel understood and it made them feel understood.
It's a rewarding feeling knowing that you're able to impact. I mean, I'm sure when you had your book and even now with our podcast, every single time we get people will write to us or they comment or anything.
Right.
It just kind of helps us know that we're doing the right thing.
It's the reason when you're like, this is why I'm doing it.
Especially when you're genuine behind it and you're really passionate about it. Like you want to, I want to create this art to help people so they can feel relatable and they can then trust within themselves to make those decisions. You, for example, are one of those things, although it wasn't a direct impact, but you had a friend that did that for you.
Yeah, she did.
Like, hey, you know what? Like, the writing and all that stuff, like she was creative. And then you said, you know what, I want to do it too. And then that kind of folded to this. And who knows? I mean, I know that outside of that, you were also doing like the creative directing that you were like on the other side of the camera. You had posted a while ago how you were like directing. I forgot who it was, but it was like a series of pictures. And I'm like, look at her. Look at boss bitch over here. That shit was dope.
I think I try not to limit myself. Well, I try not to, my best. And I think I do a good job at it, at what I do. So I think the poetry book is just another source of my art, you know, like I'm still going to do the creative directing. I'm still going to model, but if I can keep expanding and just keep creating art that can live on after I'm gone, because essentially that is like, what do you leave on earth, you know? And for me, this book leaves like an imprint of just my journey, which is whoever purchased it, they can feel identified with the journey, how life takes you.
It's like a little legacy.
Yes.
Man, I think that's when people ask, what is the purpose in life is to make other people happy, to make an impact, because everything, everything that's materialistic and monetization is temporary, but how you make somebody feel, they'll always remember that. How you made this person. I know moments where Chris, I felt a certain way when Chris helped me in a situation, right? That it was years ago, but I can pinpoint right exactly when that happened. And I know for a fact somebody one day is going to read this, hopefully I'm sure very soon, they're going to read this and you're going to help them go through a process. And you might never meet this person.
Right. They might not even tell me.
They might not even tell you, but the fact that you've impacted them is a gratitude, and it's payment, the biggest payment you can ever receive.
I agree.
And it's such a great feeling.
It's funny that you brought that up because you know how we have like the whole giveaway going on.
Yeah.
And the second person that we picked was supposed to be $100 gift card.
Yeah. So
we had done the picking and we had noticed that, there was someone who really did. So it landed on this person. That person was in the Philippines, So it was the Philippines?
Philippines. Yeah.
So, and it's like, man, logistically, like, how are we going to send him something? Luckily, it was a gift card, so we were able to kind of, fix it around. But it's like, okay, we sent it was $100 and fees applied, whatever. But to him, he was like, no, this is going to help me with this and school and all this stuff because I need to buy this. And then the Hanes, my girl, she goes to me, she goes, you have no idea, like, for you, it's only $100.
Yeah.
But for them, look how much you impacted. And look, he probably told all his friends about it.
Yeah,
he's probably there like, oh my God.
That's an event in your life.
This guy's on the other side of the freaking world. And it's like that one little moment that we've impacted this one person.
And $100, they don't make that in a month. If you think about it, like for them, it's so much more. And it's like, like somebody gives you $100, you'll spend that on, a couple of drinks.
In a day. Sometimes you go out to eat, then you buy yourself something, that's it, $100.
Yeah, exactly. So for them, it's just, it just means so much more. And the fact that we could help people out, 6,000 miles away, such a great feeling, right? So
yeah, she had brought that up to me, and then you had also said it as well. And it's like the small little moments like that, and that for us, like when I read that message when he sent it to me, I was like, wow, like we did that. Yeah,
we did that, and the fact that you did this and you created that piece, and it's going to help so many people. And I think that's what life is all about. That's for me. I feel like that's my purpose, and I think the fact that you know what you're supposed to do. And that's what life is all about. It's not just doing one thing. It's doing 100 different things. If it's, photography, if it's being an author, if it's being a podcaster, whatever it is. But there's so much more to life than just doing one thing for the rest of your life.
I agree.
I think there's a million things that you could do. And so, and I see you exploring that passion and all these different avenues. So, kudos to you.
Well, that's an advice that I would give to people coming up in like the art field. Don't limit yourself if you're a model. Be like, oh, I can only model. And that's it. Like, that is my title, because essentially you're labeling yourself. So that is what I would say. You label yourself. We call ourselves like, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a this. So those are labels, right? But when you strip away from the labels, like, what really are you? Like, you could be anything. You could be everything at once, really. So that's where I stand clear on my path, that I'm everything all at once. Like, I don't want people to see me and be like, oh, she's just now a poet. Like, no, I'm a poet, I'm a model, I'm human, I'm just like everybody else. So that's something that I remind the people around me, and I remind myself when I get too caught up in the labels that other people sometimes give me. Because sometimes it's not myself, it's how people view you. You're perceived.
What you choose to. No, that's what we had when Gus was on. So the previous guest that we had on, he's really big on mental health, and he wants to start this whole, kind of like a group or whatever, right? And he's saying that, oh, well, I'm a fighter. I'm supposed to be strong. And I'm like, no, you're not a fighter. You're Gus. You're a son. You're a boyfriend. You're a teammate. You're so many more things. You're not just a fighter. So you have to wear all these hats. You're Thalia. You feel a certain way. That's what describes you. You think a certain way. That's how you make your decision. So there's so much to you for just to be labeled by one thing, when we can accomplish so many things and wear all these hats. So it's like, that's who defines us. It's who we are, what we contribute to society, what we give, what we leave here. That's who you are. And then I think that's the focus that I think us as people should kind of highlight, more than just, oh, well, you're a writer. No, you're not just a writer, Marvin.
Yeah.
You're so much more than that.
And I think in the purest form, we're human beings, and the goal is to make other people happy, make them smile, make them laugh,
to connect with other people,
them, which is what you were saying.
And it's really hard nowadays. I think with the current situation the world is in, like, people are just more disconnected than ever. We're all part of it, so I'm not detached. I disconnect too. I get on my phone. I don't talk to people. It happens where you can't escape reality, but you could be aware of it. So I think for me, even saying like, I'm Thalia, at the end of the day, that's just a name that my parents also gave me. So it's like, even when, I think the most difficult question to answer is like, who are you? Because I was asked that once, right? I was on a train on the way back from London to Manchester, and this guy who was a monk, I didn't know in the moment, like the word, like he asked me the question, like, who are you? And I kept saying all these things, and he was just like, no, but that's just your name. No, but that's just this. And because he was a monk, and he said that he was in such deep meditation for hours, for days, really into that religion or that practice, you strip away from everything that you think you are. So he told me, he's like, you're not even like this, like, you're not this body, you're not this vessel. So it was very, it was a moment in my life that I knew I was meant to sit in front of this man. Like, who knows? I was just on a train. Yeah. But because of the book that I was reading currently, he just got into the conversation of it. So going back to what we're saying about labels, I think when we really, really just strip away from everything, it's just we're all one. It's just essence.
And I was talking to someone the other day. He went a little digress, but he had one of those ayahuasca trips. Yeah. But he said something. No, he said something super similar where he's like, dude, like, you think you're here right now? You're not. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And he goes, hey, yo, you're not even right. Like, we all think we're here, but we're not. And so when I start thinking, I'm like, there is a level of thinking that goes beyond of what's here.
Sure.
You know, that you have to trigger to really start thinking outside of like what the monk is saying. You know, for me, I don't really understand that. But it's crazy how like you can get to that level of thinking that you can really start like, what really are you?
I feel like there's a thin line. Like you cannot like detach from this. Okay. Sure. And I feel like sometimes those ayahuasca trips, I've heard really beautiful experiences, but I think you have to be very strong-minded in order to go into it, because you also don't want to get lost in the spiritual realm, because you're still living a human experience, and you can't starve yourself of the human experience. Like it's what you're here. So
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But it's just so crazy how far like the mind can really travel.
100%.
Outside of that, outside of like one.
And then what we go through every single day, like the daily activities, whatever, there's so much more.
That is pretty insane.
And exploring that. And as we get older, like we're in our late 20s. You're almost 30. I'm almost 30. Right?
Why you gotta talk about that? So many other things we could talk about. You want to say that?
And the fact that we're getting old, and then all these things that we're learning, and life becomes so much more beautiful, I think, now than it has been 10 years ago when I was, 18 years old, whatever.
Sure.
So I think it's part of the journey. The last time we had you on, when we talked a little bit about your dating history or your current dating status at the time, you said you were single.
Yes.
Since then, though, things have changed, right?
Yes.
And at the particular moment, you're not single anymore, right? You're in a relationship.
I'm currently in a relationship, and when I was on the podcast last time, I was getting to know my boyfriend.
Okay.
Deeper than the surface, obviously, because you first meet somebody. So it's not that I was completely available for other people, but just like I was telling Biara yesterday on the phone, like when things are fragile and they're blooming, right? I like to take care of them, and I like to give them privacy and give them the room to flourish without any outside forces. So that's how I would say it.
As you should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we asked you and you were like, no, I'm single. And like a couple of months later, like you posted this guy. And I'm like, oh, I guess you wasn't single. But it's like a common thing. Every guest we have on, maybe we're like the good luck. Like a good luck charm.
Maybe.
Because we have people on, they're like, oh, yeah, we're single. A month later, you remember? Posting another guy and like, oh, I thought you were single.
Yeah.
So if you're single and you want to be in a relationship, come on the show.
Just come on the show. You'll find a boyfriend here.
You find a boyfriend.
Or a girlfriend.
Or a girlfriend.
Yeah, whatever you're into.
So how are things now? Like, you guys been dating for a couple months now? How are
Yes,
things?
well,
What's up with this guy?
I was already getting to know him when I was on the podcast last time.
Okay.
And I still like to keep my things private. Everything is well. I think you attract people at the same vibration as you. So since I'm not the same person that I was back then, I think I attracted somebody that is on the same vibration as me now. So we're on the same page. We have the same morals, the same values. And that's something that you can see in the beginning of my book. It took a lot of self-work to get to this point. And sometimes people don't like to admit it, but usually when you're having a bad experience in a relationship, it's just a reflection of your mindset.
What's been the biggest changes from back then to now?
I think it had to do with validation. I think in the past I used to unconsciously, right? Because I used to say like, oh, I don't care what people say, or I don't care how people perceive me. But it really was just a mask, because I think we all care deep down inside how we're perceived. And I used to need external validation and for people to be like, oh, I'm proud of you because you're doing this or just doing that. And the biggest change has that I don't care now. You get me? Like, I am proud of myself. I am happy with myself. So I'm not seeking anybody to tell me like that I'm doing great. I just simply know that I'm doing great. So that's definitely been one of the biggest changes, where I'm my own source of happiness now, and I don't need anybody, not even my partner. At the end of the day, I'm sharing my happiness with him. But essentially, like, I am my source of happiness because I do what it takes for me to be happy and to love myself. So that's one of the biggest changes that I've also endured.
So if someone says that they hate your book, what are you going to say?
They probably hate themselves.
Impossible.
Yeah, it can be. This is a bestseller.
No, but one thing that I want to say is be proud anyways.
Yeah,
You know?
well, think about it.
Put a lot of work into that.
I put art out all the time, and I'm pretty sure people scroll through that picture and they're like, that's a shitty picture.
Maybe,
Who knows?
Maybe,
Like,
maybe.
Yeah.
But then there's going to be the people who scroll by and be like, wow, she
that's
changed my
amazing.
life.
Exactly.
You know? So don't hold on to that.
100. It's hard for me because like I've written a couple of books and I've gotten some tremendous feedback. And then there's always a couple of people who are like, hey man, I didn't like it. And I'm saying it kindly, but some people are like, oh, garbage, maybe, whatever. And it's hard because I know we've talked about it. Like it's even though you get like the overwhelmingly positive feedback, there's that one person saying,
And that's all you care about.
And then it's like, oh, fuck.
But that's
is it
just the
really that
mind.
bad? It's hard.
mind, like, why?
No, it's you gotta let go of that. But when you spend months and even years putting something together, and then somebody reads through it in 20 minutes and it's like, it's garbage. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard. no, but sometimes it's like hard to take that. And now I'm in a better place now. But we've talked about it personally. It's hard sometimes to take that criticism. And so, but ultimately, like at the end of the day, whatever you're putting out there, there's going to be, not everybody's going to love everything you do.
Well,
That's
you
with
shouldn't
everything.
ever expect everybody to like what you do.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. I can't please anybody. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't like poetry, reads that book, they're gonna hate it. They're like, I hate poetry.
Exactly.
Right.
You get me? Like,
Exactly.
it's not really. My intention is not for everybody to love it. I just wanted to reach the hands that it's meant to reach. And since I am really close to God. Like, I just know like God is gonna put this book in the hands that need it.
Sure.
And the people that do give this feedback of like, oh, garbage, I didn't date. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
True.
So
That-
you
that
can
is
message
true.
me and be like, look, I didn't like your book. I feel like they could have been this, it could have been that. I didn't say if you comment garbage, then you're the garbage. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
It's almost like, look, if I have 10 people who want to buy my book, but you don't, I'll just find another 10 that do.
Exactly.
Why am I like wasting my time worrying about you not liking my stuff? But regardless, what I wanted to say was the beauty of that is enjoying the journey, not even the finish line. Because if you know that you love putting this book together, no matter what,
You don't care about the outcome.
Yeah, you already winning. You did more. I heard a statistic the other day that supposedly like 90, there was a super high percentage of people, they always say that they want to write a book, but only 2% of people actually do it.
That's crazy.
So you've already beat the other
2%.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about it. It's like you've already done more than anyone's even willing to do or accomplish. It's like, be proud of the work that you put out. You put a lot. You put everything that you are is in that.
Well, think about it this way as well. Thank you. But even the podcast, like I've wanted to start a podcast and it's been a while and I haven't started anything. So it's like, it's challenging to start something and to really commit to it. That's what people lack. I feel like nowadays as well, commitment, even in relationships and jobs, like it lacks nowadays. I feel like people are very easily thinking they could replace it or they just get distracted and like something else. But I think it's always going to be hard though.
I think more people are concerned of what people would say. So
that as well.
I don't want to start this because then what are my friends going to say? Or what is my girl going to say? My family. I can't do that. Like, let's say you had a corporate job and you said, no, well, I want to write, or I want to be a creative director. I want to do photography. My girl, she's a photographer.
Oh, amazing.
She was a teacher. And I'm like, quit your fuck ass job. You're making more money as a photographer anyways. Like you're here working around your teaching schedule.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Just to find, no, dude. So what did she do? She quit her job and now she's not making bank, but she is getting a lot of clients in.
Right. Well, it's about building.
But she believed in herself though. And she did it. And she's
committed.
proud of that. Exactly.
She committed.
Exactly. She went and did that. So a lot of people, they're worried of like, well, what are they going to say? What are they going to think about me? Or what are they going to judge? It's like, but does that make you happy? Because they're not doing the job. They're not
that's what I was saying. It's external validation. It's hearing your parents. Like, for example, I finished my college degree, right? Bachelor's in broadcast media and journalism. Right. And essentially, I did love what I studied. I think, look, it's giving me knowledge to now even be behind this mic and being able to understand the point of view that you're in. So it wasn't my path, essentially. But a lot of the times, it was a push from my mom to be like, you need to finish college and you need to finish college. That really got me through college, though, because it was like I needed the validation of her being proud of me, to be like, okay, my daughter graduated from college, like amazing. It was an external validation, essentially. Even though I'm glad it happened, you do need to be aware of how outside forces do influence you to do certain things that sometimes don't really align with your passion. Because the knowledge that I learned in college, I'm applying it now. I'm thankful. But essentially, I don't have a passion for, let's say, like news anchoring, which is what I was aiming to do. Right. I don't really have a passion to stand in front of the news and really deliver any of the negative things on the news.
Yeah. I mean, I think school's more to create workers. I guess it all depends on the degree, but it's designed to make you a worker because this country needs people to work. I think people who then venture out of that to create their own things, such as yourself, such as us, I think we're the real winners because although it's difficult, we're kind of breaking the mold to do what we really love to do. Right. Other people, they live their whole lives working for someone else, doing something that they hate. Sometimes they have to. But we have the blessings of actually being able to.
Yeah, it's the new world we're living in too. Our parents didn't have that choice, so that's why they don't understand it.
Yeah, so it's really challenging to them because they're like, they don't understand it, so they don't want to. Eso cosa viejo también, you know, sometimes they're just like, I don't want to. So then you try to explain, they're like, no, it's not going to work. But ultimately, if you believe in it that much, we had
don't seek external validation.
Exactly. Same thing. The last guy that we had on, he was he's a fighter. You know, he's a fighter, and when he first he told his parents, they were like, be realistic. Like, you know, it's not a real thing. And then he started doing good, started winning, started advancing, getting sponsors, getting.
You need to show them. Forget telling them.
And now they're like, when's your next fight? Like, when you know what I mean?
Things change, man.
Yeah. So that's why you need to forgive your parents for that as well, because I've had to understand my parents rather than feel neglected, because they're there to support me. Like, I have no doubt my parents, if I want to launch a spaceship, they're going to be there to help me. But when I first started speaking of the book, obviously it's not physically in front of you. Almost it's even hard for you to believe that you could do it. But it's about believing in yourself, and it's not about proving it to them. It's just like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm just going to let you be a witness of it. Like, you don't have to completely understand it. Just emotionally and physically support me so that I could achieve what I want to achieve. Yeah. And that's what I forgive my parents for sometimes doubting me, because it's not that they doubt me, it's that it's in their world, in their reality that they have grown up in. Like, it's not possible to just release a book and just, they didn't even know what the internet really is nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. Or school. The same comment I said to the last guy that was here. It's like, you know, my parents were not fortunate to have school here. So they're always like, you were born here, you speak English. You get the same thing?
I get this like, we came from Cuba for you.
Yeah, all this stuff. How are you not going to go to school? If I was born here, I'd be the president of the United States. I'm like, Mom, shut the hell up. We haven't even had a woman president. You think we're going to have a Cuban one? Things like that. I'm like, yo, chill out. And so things like that. It's like they come here like wanting what's best for you, and they think school is. But I think now we're in a generation where we're realizing that maybe school isn't ultimately, I mean, does it help? Just like you said.
It helps.
But ultimately, is it going to get you to what you really love to do? I don't think so. I think that's going to come with experience.
Well, I tell people as well that school teaches you discipline. It teaches you committing because you have to wake up every single day and go to school. It teaches you respect. It's structure as well. I think there's a lot of artists that don't commit to school, right? Because they don't have the structure. And sometimes those artists don't achieve what they could because they don't have the discipline and the structure of like, I'm going to put time for this every day. I'm going to wake up at this time and dedicate myself. Because school does teach you that at a point. You get me? There is definitely like a system behind it that could be beneficial if you use it.
Yeah, think about how they say like the millionaire routine. Wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and then I do my meditation, then my workout, then my breakfast. That's a structure. Yeah, you don't really learn that unless you have something to reflect. Like in school, you were gonna say something.
No. I'm gonna piggyback off of that.
Hit it.
No, the school. I mean, it's not for everybody. It teaches you how to be, all these things that you guys are mentioned. But ultimately, if you're Gary Vee always says it. He's like, bro, I was terrible in school. Look at him now. Like he has such a creative and business savvy mentality for your aspect, I mean, you were blessed to, I guess, have both, right? You finished school and everything like that. But your creative mentality, would it really fit into a 9-to-5, into a bank, into a corporate job? Probably not.
I'll probably starve my artist. That's what I call my art. I'll starve her.
Yeah, and you'll be depressed and you'll be miserable.
Yeah, so true.
And like for me, like I always got to be on the go. I wouldn't be able to sit behind a desk. Like for me to work at like a, at a bank or something like that, like I would die. Not for anything. I'm not.
I feel like dying every day. Don't worry about it.
For
Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
I gotta be on the go, and now that we're exploring or artistic arts and that energy, like it's so refreshing when we come here. And the goal is obviously for us to do this, full time, but 100%. School is not for everybody, and especially if you're on the creative aspect of it, you gotta reach out and follow your dreams and do your passion. And ultimately the essence is to make other people happy.
Well, there's a balance as well. Like you work at a bank, right? That's why you're rolling your eyes. But it's a balance. At the end of the day, look, that's what you do during the week, but look at you on the weekend. Right. You're still feeding the artist what I'm talking about. There's a balance of like, you're still in the reality of where you have to work 9 to 5 to make your money, to pay the bills, just the system that we live in as society. But you're also not starving yourself of what you love to do. And sometimes what you love to do doesn't necessarily need to profit. Maybe it's just what you love to do. Yeah. And that's enough for some people, or just the path that it takes. Like if I made this book, right? And I think am I going to make money out of it for sales? Okay, yes. But essentially that's not what I'm searching through this book, Yeah. If I love the book and I put it out, and if I've given a books out ready for free. Like, I don't care. I just want you to read it. Tell me about it. Like, how did you feel? How did it help you? Really anything. The money is just part of the system as well that I'm going to be benefiting in that way. But essentially that's not the source of me creating it or even me doing a photo shoot. Sometimes I just simply do it for the love of the art and not the material side to it.
Yeah. Like it's tricky because we live in a world where everybody wants to monetize everything, right? Everything, and it's not always like that. But ultimately, obviously, money is important, and you need it to be creative in other outlets, right? So you can feed, you make money, and you turn it into something else that you like doing. So you need the money to have the freedom, but ultimately, you shouldn't pursue things for the sole purpose of making money.
Yeah, no. What I like is what we had said earlier. Even though I still have my regular job, I'm still winning. Because I am. You wanted to start a podcast and you haven't yet. You're a good example. So and then other people, but you're also kicking ass in other things that I wish I could do. But the beauty is but we're doing it while other people are just sitting there and complaining. And I think that's what we need to appreciate. Well, the day will come, I'm sure, when we can do this either full time or expand and really create a business with this umbrella, all that cool stuff. But it's that we started it. Yeah. And we're a lot closer than we are today than when we first started because we didn't have anything.
And the last time that I was here.
Yeah. Here. And your studio, next time, we'll definitely have you on down the line. We will have our own studio. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about progress. And I think our last episode till now, people will be able to see the progress within me and within you guys, which that's what life is about. It's just the progress. Right. And how you ever said the first step is creating it and overcoming really all the obstacles that we put in our mind, because if you tell anybody right now, like, oh, release a book, my first thought was like, how many things am I gonna have to do to release this book? Oh my God, I need this. And you create all these obstacles that most of the time it ends up being like, I can't do it. It's too much.
Yeah.
And that's probably like the most difficult part that it was for me, at least to create it, because you start thinking like, oh, how much is going to cost me this? How much is it going to be that? Who's going to help me do the pictures?
Where do I even start?
Yeah, but I feel like as soon as you make the first step, like for me, at least I was like, God would just give me the signals of where and how I'm going to do it. He wants me to start. I'm going to start. So I started putting all my poems together. I said, this is what's going to be. This is what people are going to benefit from. This is how I want to help people. And I put the intention, and just life has a way when you put the intention, they're called coincidences. It's like, oh, it's a coincidence that all of this has happened. It's not a coincidence that all of a sudden I stumbled upon somebody that helps me publish books. That is just life itself, the universe being like, you want this? Here are your resources. Here are your tools, but it's not going to be handed to you. What's being handed to you is the sources. You need to, at the end of the day, grab those sources and be like, okay, these are the tools. I'm going to keep doing this.
I think it's the opportunity. The opportunity gets given to you. And then it all comes down to how you act, when the opportunity gets presented. What I do love about that is how important it is for human connection and networking, essentially, and building those strong relationships with people. And I think it starts with you as being a good person and helping people, because if you have that type of personality that you want to help, you want to meet, you want to talk, now you start getting aligned with the people that maybe have those resources for you that you probably didn't have before.
People didn't even know.
Exactly. But it's important. So that's why I'm really big on being empathetic and like thinking of other people. Why are they thinking the way that they are? Why are they telling me this? Trying to understand their mind, because that way, it allows you to kind of connect with them a little bit better and find, other outlets that you can kind of capitalize on. So imagine like right now, like we met you. If one day I needed something from you, you reached out to us again, like, hey, you don't have the book, it's the same. You were on before. Like, that's awesome. Like we had that connection already, that relationship wants for you to come back on. And it's like, oh my God, we would love Thalia to come back on.
No doubt. Like he told me about it and I said, let's do it. And it just kind of worked out. Like,
I'm so happy. Honestly, as soon as I was like, okay, I need a platform where I can share this other than Instagram, where I can express myself. So since I don't have my own podcast, I was like, okay, what's the best podcast other than inside my head? And I thought of you guys because I did feel very welcomed last time. And I think one of the things that I took from the last episode that we did is that it's all about comfort when you're talking to somebody. So in order for me to really express what I want to express, I needed to feel comfortable in an environment with the person that I'm sharing it. And knowing that we had some common ground in our interests and our morals, the way we think, even if we have differences. Like last time we talked about relationships, like we went deep into it. And although we had our different thoughts, it was still a comfortable setting.
It was a good discussion, exchange of ideas.
You said it earlier, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it comes down to empathy. Because if I'm listening to you and understanding why you believe something, if I had a difference, I'm not going to make you feel stupid for your decision. Because what makes me feel right about mine? If I were right, you would also agree, but you don't. So man, I want to learn why you don't agree. And I think that's the beauty of having these open conversations with people, because then you are able to have these conversations that you can learn like, oh, well, maybe we're not on the same page, but I can at least respect you for your beliefs.
Marvin, I have a question for you.
Oh boy.
It's a good question.
Talk to me.
When you released your book, right, that you got your feedback, what do you think it was the most fulfilling?
Oh, I mean, the feedback was tremendous, and it was a little bit overwhelming because people knew I was writing before. I had blogs out, I had my own platform, Embrace the Layover, where I was writing about traveling, and also like a little bit of relationships and Thought Catalog, which is like a digital magazine.
That's
cool. I was talking about like I was going through like a really rough breakup, and just kind of what fed the fire to write the first book. And the biggest thing is that I had a lot of guys reach out. Because the book that I wrote was Learning How to Heal a Broken Heart, and most writers, and especially when it comes to about these things, tend to be women. So for a man to come out there and talk and write about his feelings and heartbreak and how he was going through it and how he was devastated and crying and this and all that, for a man to be vulnerable and to put that on paper, it was a big step for.
It's rare. Very rare.
And so I had a lot of guys reach out to me and say, thank you so much for putting this into words. I've never been able to express how I felt. I was going through this. I love this girl and it meant so much to me, but I just didn't know how to express that, because when we had talked about it, a lot of men are afraid to talk about how they feel. A guy gets through, gets out of a relationship and he's like, oh, I didn't care about this girl, whatever. Why? Of course he did, but he's not going to say that to his boys or to his mom or to his friends because, I can't show feelings. God forbid. And for me, I wasn't like that. I wasn't going to be like that. I was like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be honest. And I think through my writing, people felt that. They're like, man, like this man was really going through it. And so for me, when people read the book and they told me, listen, like I could relate. I could see how you were going through this and I could see how you were struggling and this helped me. And that's the key for me. Like I want to help other people.
Yeah.
So it meant so much to me when people would reach out and say, hey, listen, bro, I was going through it. Because I remember when I was at the darkest point of my life and and I overcame that and I overcame it because of you. And when they were telling me that, it meant so much because I was there.
That's beautiful.
I was
that
going
really
through it. And so the biggest piece that where I am now to compare to where I was 2.5 years ago, it just goes to show you. And I'm sure you can relate based on especially what I read. We humans are so incredibly resilient. We can overcome the worst situations. Think about the lowest point in your life, and look where you are now. You did at the time. You didn't think you could overcome that.
No.
You thought it was game over. You thought there's never going to be a good day again, if you think about it. And then look where we are now.
I agree.
And so for me, there's always going to be another day in terms of it'll get better.
It does get better. Like that's what people don't want to, in that moment, you just want to drown in your sorrows. Like it's just terrible, but it does get better. And at least, sorry to interrupt you, at least the same thing that you said, like, writing at least heals you. And when you know that you share and it heals other people, you're like, this is it. How my experience is healing you while it's simultaneously healing me. So that, the energy is already creating of healing. Like that is what we're here to do. I think your book healed you.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you just put everything out that you felt. So you're not carrying that weight that you once did just because you already put it out. You're expressing it. And now somebody else is like, I'm going through this. And it's healing me to read what you're going through because you're giving them the hope that, okay, he got through it. So I can get through it too. And that's essentially the same thing that I aim for this book. The book is written in a specific form, right? I told you guys this yesterday. And it takes you from 2.5 years ago, the point that I was in my life, where I was going bad breakup, just heartbreak, just disappointment, betrayal, etc., grief, because that's part of the healing journey that people don't like to go through. Usually you go through the bad and then you grieve it, it's hard because that's when you mourn the relationship or you mourn the moments. And after that grieving is usually when you do get to the part of like acceptance. And once you accept that that is what it is, you can actually move on now to your next chapter, to what else is life gonna bring me. And I think that's through my book, you can see the experience that I went through. And I hope to inspire people as well, that it doesn't matter what chapter you are in your life, just like in my book where the first chapter is about my heartbreak, about my toxic relationship, my past toxic relationship. And the second chapter is Carmen, which I don't know if you guys know through Instagram. Maybe some people know. It was like this alter ego that I created, right? When I would go create art, or I would just go out and get drunk. I'd be like, oh, that wasn't me. That was just Carmen, right? So it's this alter ego. I would call her, Carmen. It was, I would say, like a false identity. So it was pretty much the mask that I kept to just deal with all the pain that I was going through and to just get through the days that I was grieving, right? And that's the second chapter of the book. That's why it's called Meet Carmen, just because that is nothing of what I really, really am. It's just somebody that I created in order to just get me by the days, like this is, you sometimes do that. You create like this personality that's not really like your core essence, but it does help you just deal with the things that you're dealing with. Right. And I think I would essentially call that like my old ego, because I killed her. Carmen is dead.
When you received this your book in the mail and you went over it and you read through some of the pages through it, some of the poems that were written years ago, and you go through and you go over it and you see, man, like where you were at the point at that point, and then where you are now. How does that make you feel that you overcame some of the worst days in your life, and now you're like, man, I wrote about this, I overcame it. I'm in a healthy relationship.
Like a trophy
now.
Almost.
I will tell you this though, you know how during those times when people are like, oh, this is not gonna get better, this is the worst thing ever, like my life is gonna be miserable. I never had that thought. Like even when I was in the lowest point of my life, I knew, I was like, this is not it. Like I'm not destined for this. So when I was in the toxic relationship and I was in really bad situations, I always knew, I was like, this is just temporary. because the light at the end of the tunnel is there, and I'm going to get to it.
That's hard to actually have that when you're in the
No,
midst
I had it. And that was probably even the hardest thing though, because at least when you're, I'll say naive or just not aware, it's easy just to be like, oh, I'm going to be miserable. But when you're accepting that you're in this part of your life and you're aware that that's not your final destination, it's even harder because it's like, oh, can I just get to the end? Like, I just want to be happy already. But you have to accept that you're not there yet and you are miserable sometimes.
What you just said, you're not there yet. And so sometimes when we go through these journeys, it's like driving in a car and you look through the rear view mirror and all you see is darkness and even ahead. It doesn't mean that this is the final destination. It just means you're just not there yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
there is no final destination.
Exactly. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have a beautiful day, that the sun's going to come out, that there's going to be happiness and fulfillment. It'll be there. It's just not today. And so when you're going through that, you have to remind yourself, you have to find a lighthouse. I like to call it like a beacon of hope. And for me, through that time, my writing was that.
Me too.
Chris meant that to me.
A support system.
The support system, the people that I've met throughout, through Chris and all my other friends that have helped me. But not everybody has that. And so for me, writing that book, that was the lighthouse that I wanted to give to other people. That's a lighthouse to somebody else.
And it was for me as well.
Guide them home. And so it's so important when you.
That's crazy that you say home, because I actually have a part of the poem where it's a narration. So I was pretty much narrating like the third point of view, where I was saying that I was returning home from like being lost for so long. And it's because sometimes you do get into these relationships and you lose yourself and you strip away from like really who you are. And you come back and you're like, whoa, it's like almost like a blackout. You sometimes I don't do this anymore, but if you go out and you black out and you wake up the next day and you're like, what just happened? What did I do? It was almost like those toxic moments are those blackouts. And you're just like, wow, like I can't believe I even did that. That's not me.
Yeah, like you reflect back to it.
Yeah.
But how often and then you're with the wrong person when they bring out a side of you that you don't even recognize.
Yeah, like this cannot be me.
This is not me. I'm not that crazy. Well, maybe you are, but you're not that that person, that jealous person, that insecurity. But like sometimes people bring out the worst in you, right? So and then you're gonna have those people who bring out the best in you, and you have to realize that obviously everything comes with self accountability, but in hindsight, you're like, man, why was I like this? Even I think about how the worst days were, how you behaved in past relationships.
I'm
like, I can't. I'm
embarrassed.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed.
I don't know her.
I don't want to be thinking about that. The person I was, but that's growth. That is growth.
Well,
and you got to be.
I love her.
Process.
Like who I was. Like identity. I send her love, and sometimes through my meditations, I do think of my old self and like I hug her and I say that I love you. And she did the best she could. Like she was trying the best that she could. She was just trying to get on with the day. She was just trying to make it to where I am now. Yeah. And essentially without who I was, I wouldn't be who I am. So I'm not ever ashamed of who I was, but I do, I'm aware of the actions that were not resonating with really who I am.
I wanted to add, because you called this book Too Much. And in the dedication, you said something about, I dedicate this book to all the men that have said that I was too much. How many times have men said that to you? That you were too much, that you demanded too much, that you asked for too much.
I think even outside of relationships, right?
Right.
I am an intense person. I wouldn't even say intense. I'm a passionate person.
Passion. I like that.
And with passion comes intensity. And to people that can't handle your fire, you are going to be too much. And they're going to be like, you know what? You're just too much for me. And sometimes believe those people, because as soon as somebody tells you you're too much for me, indeed I am.
Yeah.
Like I gotta go.
I'm too much for you, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be somebody else out there who's going to feed that fire instead of trying to dim it.
Exactly.
You know? And that is important. Do you feel like the relationship you're in now, the person you're with, because you're a passionate person, are they able to kind of push you to do further, or will they say, hey, you're too much? Yeah. Are you too much?
No, I don't feel that currently, right? So when I first put dedicated to other men who were told me too much, right? I followed by dedicated to my mom, who always told me like they were not enough. Yeah. Right. So I love that, because my mom was my support system always. She was like, I'll vent to her. She'd be like, forget it. Like, you are not wrong. Like, you're a woman. Like, that is what you deserve. Respect yourself. So she always reminded me like, no, they're just not in the right state of mind for you. And then it's followed to the women that, it's also dedicated to the women that, despite their hurt, believe in love. And the reason why, it's because, regarding back to your question, you need to believe that you are going to find somebody who thinks that you are just fine. You get me? That you're fine just the way you are, even with your imperfections. I'm not the perfect girlfriend, right? Nobody is, because I'm not the perfect human. It's not even a girlfriend. I'm not a perfect human. So when you go through traumatic things like how I did and how you did, sometimes it takes healing, and it takes you now being in a healthy relationship to understand how wrong it really was your past relationship. And sometimes you have to accept that your programming is toxic because that's all you've experienced. And at least in my current relationship, I am now facing having to reprogram myself about the way that I communicate, about the way that I perceive things, the way that I engage with my partner, in the sense of what I expect of him, which I was talking to my friend here earlier today, Sophie, and we expect things from, we expect things from partners when really you shouldn't expect your partner for anything. You should just accept your partner for who they are, right? Once you start expecting and putting these rules upon people is usually when you start getting disappointed and you start going into misery or just unhappiness, just because you're not accepting them for who they are. When I feel like in my current relationship, I am learning that he accepts me entirely for who I am. And I've also committed myself not only to the relationship, but to my healing journey so that our relationship could work. And I think that's essential in a relationship. You need to commit to yourself.
Isn't it liberating?
Yes.
Being able to be yourself. Like
yes.
with the person that you want to be with.
And to be comfortable.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Doesn't that feel great?
It's refreshing.